Right, good morning. Okay, so we're on our Wednesday stream doing the character sculpting. So for the last 3 Wednesdays I've done the sculpt of this lovely lady. So this is Alenor, the Elven Sorceress. You can see the concept art in the bottom corner of the screen that was done by Dio Mahesa for me. The model here is done, it's been pre-supported. I haven't actually got around to test printing it yet because it's been Baltically cold in the office, so obviously being reluctant to put the heating on in Britain at the moment. I'm just having to wait till it warms up a little bit, or gets so cold I've got to put the heating on anyway, so we'll see. I'll have a test print of this and the Merrigans and the Morning Craven Horde. I'll have a test print of the Merrigans and the Spine Devils and Alenor on before the end of the week, and they'll be all up on my Manufactory and Patreon. So anybody who has subscribed during September will get those models, and they'll be getting this model as well. So that'll be an 11 model drop plus the 13 models that you get in the welcome pack. So she's obviously got a little imp clinging around her legs. So next thing I need to do is to get the imp made. So I'm going to use a separate tool for this one. And I want to load in I'm going to load in the human tool, I think. No, for the little imp I'm just going to use Decisions. I'll make that a polymesh 3D. We'll start with the cylinder. I'm going to face it forward, put the symmetry on. This is a little bit of a deviation on what I showed you on the previous sculpt job with Alenor herself, where I start with the base mesh. Because this guy, I don't really have a base mesh that fits the body of an imp. So I'm just going to mash this into an approximate shape. So this little imp here, and again stupidly I haven't opened my own reference image, he's basically like a little pot-bellied humanoid, really, kind of goblin-esque, and I believe he's got like a scorpion tail. So I'm just going to get my my own reference for that one up, which I've lost. Let me find it a second. Got it. Right. So that's what we're dealing with. So we've got this little imp here. So he's got a large head, little pointy chin, flat nose, little teeth, pointy ears, 3 clawed hands. I'm going to say cloven hooves, I think, on his feet, and then a little scorpion type tail going on in the background. Now this one doesn't have wings, so I'll keep that for the Avernus ones. I may do a winged variant as well, because why not? So let me just move my image so you can see the the actual sculpt. So he's not as pot-bellied as I thought he was actually. He's just like a little goblin. But let's just do this as I was planning anyway. So I'm going to do mesh insert dart, drop a little sphere over there, stretch that out for the thigh, and I'm just going to duplicate that leg, flip it round, shrink it down, and we'll pop it here for the calf. And then again for the foot. So I'm just going to turn it around now because I want the actual toe to be a little bit larger. Stretch that out again. Okay, I'm just going to auto group so I can isolate the pieces I need, because they're all sharing the same polygroup at the moment. Just going to reposition a few bits. Oops. And then I'm just going to... No, that's backwards. Mask off to about here. And then I'm just going to rotate the hoof down. Okay. So it's clunky and very unelegant at the moment, but I'll live with it. It'll serve a purpose. A little body, and we're going to come up a touch. So to about there. Shoulders. I'll keep the shoulders in. Yeah. So design decisions again. I'm going to dynamesh this with polygroups on. Fairly low resolution, hopefully. And let's use some of this dynamic tessellation today. Again. It's funny, I never actually used to use the Sculptress mode. I think when they first put it in there, it threw me a little bit, because I remember using Sculptress like way back before it was even acquired by Pixelogic. And even Zbrush isn't Pixelogic anymore. I can't remember the name of the company that's taken them over, but they've sold it on to new owners now. So I'm going to use the larger size brush, so it will help to smooth out some of this visible tessellation we're seeing, the planes, the sharp edges on the planes. There we go. Close holes, because I spotted a couple of little holes popping up there. I'm going to do the same with the arm, so I'm just going to go and drop in a little sphere for the shoulder. This is probably a point where I could use that snake spheres, but I didn't have much luck with that last time I tried it. Go on, let's give it a go. Let's be a devil. Ha ha. Snake sphere. So snake hook, you'll see me use sometimes. Things like hair and fur. Snake hook will it will pull whatever surface you grab to a point. And if you have dynamic tessellation on, it will kind of keep going and keep going and keep going indefinitely. You can go into like all sorts of snaky patterns, which is why it's called the snake hook. The snake sphere kind of does the same thing, except it's pulling it out at full mass. So instead of giving me a shrunken what do you call it, like a taper, it is actually giving me a full length with the same height. I struggled to get this to work before a little bit, because it kept going off in funny angles, funny directions. So we've got a little bicep, and then we've got the forearm, which is going to be a bit longer. Okay. And I won't do the hands using the same thing. But now that I've got this rough form in place, I can take my clay build-up brush, and I can start mashing in some shape and form to it. So I'm going to go for a shoulder muscle, we're going to go for a little bit of a bicep. And these are only indicative, they're not kind of, you know, they're not final. And also this guy is going to be like a snotling kind of size, so he's going to be small, like really small. So I really don't want to do too much of anything that's going to, you know, really need some high resolution to print. Let's say the majority of people, I'd like to think by now, are probably using 4K printers Sonic Mini 4K or something along those kind of lines. I know there are still people out there using a 2K printer. And what I would say as well with that, if you use the correct resin, you can still get really good resin, really good results using a 2K printer. The Amira Labs TGM7 and AMD3, both very fast curing resins, so if you're using a 2K mono printer, they will definitely help to sharpen up the print. The other one I really had some good results with was, I want to say it was E-Sun model resin or something. It's like it was like a red wax looking thing. It wasn't actually a wax one. It's not the one that you can like melt off in a crucible to, not in a crucible. It's not one for like doing jewellery where you can melt it in a plaster mould doing the investment casting. But the red wax like sculpting resin from E-Sun was fantastic stuff, and I got really sharp, really clean prints using the original Elegoo Mars, and that and the Amira Lab stuff was the best quality resins I actually managed to find to use on a 2K printer. So you can still get good results, but obviously the you know, you're gonna end up spending the money on the better resins. You kind of get what you pay for to a point. Cheers, Pointy. Average viewers is about 4 at the moment, I think, 3.84. So I think I've just got to hit 7 streams now to get the Twitch affiliate status. So this is number 6, I think. So one more tomorrow, and then I've met the criteria, and I've got to wait for an invite then. Yeah, last night's one was quite an easy stream, to be fair. It was fairly short, unplanned, and I spent more of it talking than sculpting, but it was still what's the word? It was still a decent little little session with a good number of viewers on it. I think I'm averaging about 18 to 20 people per stream at the moment, so it's in terms of total viewers. So I probably need to stream for shorter amount of times, to be fair, because if I've got more what's the word? 9 days, not bad, mate, not bad. Do you stream daily for that one, or I haven't had a raid land yet, you know. I'm doing that one. How long it'll be before the first raid drops? Okay, so I've got arms now. Forearms probably want to be a little bit longer, so I'm just going to drag them down a touch. I'm going to make the top of the arms a bit bigger, not because I want him to look hench or anything, but because he's so small, he's going to be tiny. I need to make sure that he's not just a wisp on the print. So I've got to chunk up the different body parts more so than in the illustration. So the illustration is quite small and quite delicate. And unfortunately, if I actually do that on a model, there'll be nothing of him to look at in the actual flesh, as it were. Okay, so first thing, knobbly knees. Just gonna hide those things because otherwise that was a mistake. I'll do both. Let's hide them because otherwise the calves are interfering with the kneecap. Yeah, the stream I did the other night, I sat there hunting for somebody to raid, and there was just nobody about. I don't know if it's 'cause it was too late on a Sunday night and people just don't favour that time or whatever, but have a look who's on today. See if Marshall and Mike's on. Maybe jump on his stream at the end again. Yeah, 3 STLs. I can live with that though, to be fair. I think at some point I have to have a look at making the putting the subscribers on, and kind of allowing people to subscribe on here and getting the same kind of benefits that my Patreon bots do. I've got Patreon, I've got tribes, and although if I'm honest, there'll be a bit of a move away from those in the near future. Just getting the right, so you want the ad revenue over the subs then. I saw a thing yesterday, they were saying about like Twitch have changed the what do you call it, like the percentages now, so it's like a 50-50, they take a 50% cut. Have you seen anything about that? Morning, Rich. Yeah, so tribes and Patreon are exactly the same. The difference being, if you subscribe to Patreon, I get paid in £sterling, and if you subscribe to tribes, I get paid in US dollars. So Patreon tends to be the best. It's a better platform by far. My manufacturer put tribes out way too early, pushed me to jump into the fray with that before it was even ready to go. I think what I was actually shown, I still actually now don't believe, was I don't believe it was a proper website. I think I was shown a PowerPoint presentation that was mocked up to look like a website. So I'm putting too much detail. I'm yapping here. I'm putting all the detail I would normally put onto any other model here, and it's too much. So I just need to rein it back a little bit. So yeah, so like I say, I ended up going with my manufacturing onto tribes way before tribes was even ready to be released to the public. I still don't think it's 100%. But yeah, it's not. It's far from a perfect platform. Patreon's better for engagement. So if you want to engage with creators, you're far better joining them on Patreon than you are on My Manufacturing. Most people who have done My Manufacturing Tribes, I think, have only gone and done it because it's just an extra revenue stream. It's more kind of like passive income, but they just want you to do all of like these SEO type boosting things for them, which obviously gives them a bit of a leg up in terms of, like, you know, search engine rankings and all that kind of business, but it doesn't benefit you. You're doing a lot of work for no real reward. You know, the promise, you know, you're taking them on a promise really, and it's burnt me in the past, so I won't be doing that again. Oops. So yeah, like I said, totally different way of sculpting this morning. So there's no ready-made base mesh for this. I'm just going to be using whatever tools I fancy at the time to create the form. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. And ultimately, I think I said before, I'm not using this to do what do we call it now? There'll be no like my brain is not working this morning. There'll be no animation or anything going on here, so I'm not worrying about clean topology. I just want the shapes that I need to work with, and that's kind of what you got to do with this as well. Is just break it down to basic shapes. So I just want to see that it looks kind of right, and then I'm happy then. A few little interesting planar changes just to give a little bit of something to paint. But again, I don't want anything that is going to be too drastic. Nothing too detailed here. I'm even going to be careful when I come to do the face on this guy, because if I'm not careful, it's going to end up like too detailed. But he has got a much bigger head than he has got a body, so he's out of proportion, which thankfully plays in favour of sculpting generally, to be fair. Torso, let's isolate it. Let's put a little bit of muscle form in there, not too much, because again, it's detail that's not going to come up. Pop belly ding. There we go. Use the H polish tool to knock these back a little bit, bring it in so he's got more slim form there. I'm just going to define some of these transitions on the body with the Cracks brush, and again that's just going to help me to get the shape right and make it show up with a little bit of an ink wash or some contrast paints or something like that. Straight down the middle of the back, we're going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to pop a few. Let's just unhide him out. Let's put some little pointy shoulder blades on it, I think, because he feels like he needs it. It's where I could really do with a Snotling model for reference here to see how the details showing up. And that is something actually I would encourage anybody doing miniature sculpting to do from time to time. It's all well and good looking at reference images and photographs and, you know, getting all your anatomy correct and everything else. Sometimes in a miniature you don't need correct anatomy, you need stylized anatomy, and the best way of figuring that one out is to actually get some actual proper miniatures and study them. So my number one tip for anybody who is actually doing miniature sculpting would be to just buy some miniatures. And I don't mean, I've said this on a previous stream anyway, but I'm not talking about buy miniatures from someone like myself or a Patreon creator or somebody who's doing any of that kind of stuff, because most of us guys don't have art directors. There's no approvals process. So the only person who tells me what I can and can't, what is or isn't good enough to go onto my web store is me. Now, I think I've got pretty good judgment after all my years of experience, but that's not going to be true of everybody. So different people with different experiences and different quality standards for themselves will let different things through the net. So the best thing to do is to go to a big company like Games Workshop, Infinity, Corvus Belly rather, Steamforge, somebody who has got an approvals process, art direction and all that kind of good stuff on the model range, because they really are not going to let anything that's subpar go out to the public. Something is not right with this guy, so I think I'm going to take his arms out. His arms look too muscly for me, so I'm going to remove the biceps from his arms, which sounds like a horrendous form of torture, but I'm going to smooth them down, straighten them out. I'm going to make his upper arms more skinny, because this guy's not somebody who's going to kind of come up and beat you up, not on his own. This is like a weight of numbers, you know, like they're going to gang up on you and bring you down slowly. Okay, bit better. Upper legs are a bit too wide, so I'm just going to take them in. So again, this looks like he's been to the gym and done leg day a few times, which I don't want. And then we're going to bring his, I'm just going to re-proportion here, so I'll bring out his rib cage a touch. I'm just going to bring the belly down. That's too much of a belly actually. Let's bring it back in. Now I'm going to avoid all temptation to give him a little imp willy. If you ain't going to paint his leg details, that's something that's definitely not going to get painted. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate the shoulder. So position it so it's dead centered onto where I want the pivot to be. Okay, I'm going to use my move topological tools to bring the shoulders up into the body. Sorry, move tools, not move topological. Bring the shoulders up, and then I can bring the pectoral muscles out into the shoulders. Okay. Now that is not quite right, but it's as good as I need it to be at the moment for the size of it. Oops. I don't know why it does that sometimes, the brush does. It puts a diagonal stroke across the entire model, and every so often it'll do it and then delete your undo history, so you've got no choice but to sculpt it out, which is not good. It's not helpful. Right, I want it to look a little bit sharp and jagged, to be fair, so all these soft lines I really need to kind of do something about, so I'm just going to use the again, it's not it's not anatomically correct to have like these sharp angles, but I don't care. It's what I need for the job. Like I say, sometimes when you're doing these kind of things, it's about a style choice rather than complete anatomical accuracy. Rotate the legs out a little bit. Right, now the guy I've got here, I think his arms need to be just longer. So it looks like his elbow comes down to about here, so I do need to just I think I'm going to have to just stretch him out a little bit. Should do, I think. Just check to see his messaging. Okay, so close holes again because I've got a load of holes that appeared in his top. My mistake. Let me just mute my phone. The sheer amount of sales calls I get in a day is going to absolutely do my head in otherwise. Auto group again. Okay, so for the tail I'm going to use curve tube, and I'm going to put I'm going to go to a stroke menu. Morning Bunker, thanks for joining in. Yeah, well the average viewers is fine. I think it's the it's my stream count. I think I've got to do 7 streams in 30 days. So this is number 6. So one more stream tomorrow, and I've met all the criteria then, as long as my average doesn't drop on the viewers. So I think I'm on. I think it was 3.8 when I checked last night. Yeah, let's turn symmetry off for this one or it's not going to work. Okay, so that's what it looks like if I just draw a tube out. So this is curved tube in a straight line-ish. So if I go up to my stroke menu now, I'm going to do lock start, lock end, and bend start, bend end. And that just means that the endpoints of the curve, they don't move, but they can also be angled and positioned. And then I'm going to go back into the stroke menu to curve modifiers. And I'm going to go here where it says size. I'm going to do curve fall off. I'm going to change that one so it's at the top. Bring this one to the, doesn't need to be right at the bottom because I'm not bringing it to a point. If I was doing like a hair strand or something like that, you could put another tail that goes to a point at the end. You can take that right to the bottom, and if I just click on that line now, it'll just apply that taper. Now that's not enough of a taper, so I'm just going to go and adjust that curve to their side. Still not enough. I'll take my draw size down a touch because it's quite a thick tail. that's probably a little bit too much at the end. So and this is just playing the game with it now, just try and figure it all out. Just play with the curve. There we go. Okay, so he's got I'm going to make his tail a touch longer. That should reprofile the curve. So there we go. I'll bring it around this way. Okay. Right, now I'm pretty sure I've got one of those insert mesh hand things that will fit the job here, so I'm not going to try and sculpt the hands this morning. I'm just going to use the ones we've already got. We're going to drop a head in for him, so let's go append sphere. Okay, so it's lost inside there, so I'm just going to grow that. So I think that's about right, give or take. Make sure my symmetry's on. I'm going to bring the chin down. Widen out the jawline. Tapering the all over. Just going to mask off. Ooh. Ears. I'm going to use the snake hook brush. This is the snake hook, this one is not the thing, so I want these to come to a point at the end. Snake hook brush for which one are you looking at, Bunker? The D2? The Ultra? It's going to go standard 4K, or what are you thinking? Any of them would be fine, by the way. Good man. I wouldn't go for the larger size ones, by the way, especially if it's your first printer. There's a big learning curve with 3D printing anyway, and one of the things you can do quite easily is to like destroy a screen. If you don't clean the resin vat out properly and you leave any kind of like cured resin in there, when the build plate comes down, it's going to crush the chunk of cured resin into the screen, and it's just like a phone screen, but it's free swinging, so like, not free swinging, there's nothing under it, there's no solid body under it, so it's just like, it's like a thin sheet of glass, almost plastic, on the over a hole, and obviously if there's any flex or anything in there, it will crack all the pixels and just break the LCD. The more expensive your printer is, and the more high spec the printer is, and the larger the printer is, the more expensive the replacement screen is going to be. Yeah, Photon Mono 4K, you'll be fine with that. The replacement screen for that's about 80-90 quid. If you go for the larger one, if you go for the I forget what they call it now, but if you go for like the 10-inch build plate, the screen on that was I think about 260 or something like that. So if you make the mistakes on that one, it's going to cost you a lot more money. Plus any print fails and stuff that you get, they're going to be on a large build plate, so there'll be more of them, so you're going to use more resin on failures. So I'd always say to anybody, if you're going to get into 3D printing for the first time, stick to a 6-inch printer, like the Photon Mono, or one of the DLP ones, or the Frozen Sonic Mini 4K, something like that, that's a bit more on the affordable side but has cheaper consumables, and that way when your prints do fail, because they will, when your prints do fail, it's lower volumes of wasted resin, it's cheaper replacement parts if you need to, and they just take up less space as well, so you don't need quite so much hobby space for it. You haven't got to clear such a big area of your print desk. So personally, I would, if I'm going to upscale my printing operation, I'll be buying more 6-inch printers rather than a few larger format ones. Because even once you've gone from a 6-inch printer to like a 10-inch printer, there's still a learning curve to go from what you learned on the 6-inch to upscale it to the 10-inch. A while back, I actually bought a load of Epax X1s, and I was using them for miniature production. And when I was doing the printing on them, the X10 came out with the 4K, and I thought, I'll get one of them. So I ordered it, and it was like £1,800 for the printer. And my thinking was, it's 4 times the build plate size, so I'll get 4 times as many models done. And then what it turned out was, like, where I was doing like a 3mm lift on a 5-inch plate, on a 6-inch plate, or 4mm lift or something like that. I had to do 7mm lift on the 10-inch plate, because where the FEP stretches up with every pull, every time the print separates, the FEP stretches, and because it's a bigger FEP, there's more stretch on it. So to get guaranteed separation on every layer, on a 10-inch printer you need like a 7mm lift. So you've also got to print slower because of the forces that are being exerted across the build plate are exponentially larger because of the extra build size. So it was one of those kind of what's the word? I bought it thinking I was going to print 4 times faster, because I was going to print 4 times as much in the same amount of time, and I ended up printing like 4 times as much, but it would take 3 times longer than the normal one. And it's always been a big regret for me that I even bothered to spend the money on it, because I could have bought 3 or 4 smaller printers for the same amount of cash, and I'd have genuinely been printing like 4 times as much. So, you know, you've got to kind of weigh it all up and see what's going to work for you. But don't be fooled into thinking that the numbers are always what they seem. There's always little quirks and things. Another thing I'd always say is never be the first to jump on the bandwagon. Cheers, Rich. Never be the first to jump on a bandwagon with a new printer or new technology, because every time I've done that, the technology has had issues that have come about. The companies tend to use the first wave of buyers as like testers, like beta testers, like, you know, but you're paying for the product. So yeah, you'll be fine with that. 190 quid on Amazon's a sound price. I think the Sonic Mini 4K, which is my usual recommendation, is 380 quid or something like that. So if you can get an equivalent printer for £190, then do it, man. A couple of Tupperware tubs with some isopropyl, filter, and a funnel, and some paint filters to filter off your waste resin if you get a fail. When you get a fail, there's something Dragon Ball Z about this guy at the moment in my head. With his little pointy cheeks. So this little lad is for Alenor, so the Elven Sorceress that I was sculpting the last couple of days, last couple of Wednesday streams. So here she is. He's our little familiar, so you can see him around the legs there. But also, as a bonus, because I've been doing the Descent into Avernus models, the Infernal Legions obviously use a lot of imps for different things. So far, all the imps I've encountered in the game have been invisible, so it's been a bit of a cop-out. I mean, I could make the imp and you can print it in clear resin and say it's an invisible imp, but if it's genuinely just invisible, you just don't even need to put it in there. Let's just mask off the neck. So yeah, so because once this guy's done, we'll have what do we call them now? We'll have an imp base now to use for the Descent into Avernus imps for D&D. So this guy is like is a little naked imp running around. But when I do the Avernus ones, I'll probably put a little bit of armour on them just to kind of make them look consistent with the other kind of devils that I've done. So a snake hook, I'm going to just enlarge that a little bit to start with. I'm going to pull the horns up. Smooth them out a touch. And I'm just going to go and just give them a little... No, that's the wrong tool for that. I'm just going to give them a little bit of... I don't know what you call that. An exit wound. The bit where the horns protrude through the skin. No, these are mine, mate. This is part of for this month's releases. This is going to be a bonus model. So this figure is actually one that I had commissioned. So when I was doing the, I was looking at producing a game of the Adventurers Guild. So it was going to be a tabletop roleplay game, and I got a little bit of the way through, wrote the story and all this kind of business, and then the progress had to halt a little bit because I was pulled a little bit too far from pillar to post, trying to get commissions done and sculpting and everything else. And I realised it's going to be like a really long time before it's out. So I thought, I've got all this lovely artwork I paid for, I might as well use it for something. And then I thought, well, I need to do some streaming now, or I wanted to do some streaming now. And I thought, what, I might as well, rather than just wing it like I often do, I might as well show you guys what the end product is supposed to look like. Because normally when I'm sculpting, I've got an idea in my head, I've got a good picture in my head, but it'll take me as long to put that down on paper and do a concept illustration myself as it will to actually just do it straight into 3D. So yeah, straight to 3D it is for me most of the time. Right, no eyelids on this guy, so let's make him look a little bit creepy. I'll just do some deeper creases, I think, just to and then I also actually need an imp for the next Kickstarter mini I'm doing, the next one of the pin-ups. So I've got like a pin-up witch that I'm working on. Right, so this bit here I've just done, I'm just sharpening up these cheekbones to make them look a little bit more devilish. I keep wanting to call them demons, but I know D&D completely differentiates devils and demons as totally different things. So I have to keep reminding myself not demons. Right, now this eye socket really needs to be more further away from the eyeball, because again, this is all down to scale. These eyeballs are going to completely blend in if I'm not careful. So, not much distance between the nose and the mouth. Right, until I test print this guy, I don't know how well this detail is going to come out on the model, but I'm just making sure that the little lines are extra deep, just to make sure, just to make certain, as best I can. Okay, so where we are, I need to give a little bit of definition to the edge of the eye socket, I think. Yeah. Just going to cut in here a little bit just to give him a temple. It's not just a great big melon head. Right, so Rich. My halfling Pacific healer cleric got forced to sacrifice somebody in my last session, so I'm thinking of taking a forced dip into Blood Hunter to explain the trauma. Challenge of finding a mini. So you want a halfling, a reluctant halfling Blood Hunter. Is that right? Pacifist. Oh God. So a pacifist had to sacrifice somebody. That's an interesting one. That could be a good one for a stream. I've got a dwarf blood hunter, but he's not. He's a bit too obviously dwarfy. Isn't that a prerequisite for a DM, Rich? Being a bit twisted. Okay, give him a. I'm gonna give him a more pronounced bottom lip. Maybe not that pronounced. I'm gonna just. Well, at the moment it's just a ledge, so I'm just going to buff that back in with the H polish. And I'm just going to, oh no, wrong one. Just going pop a couple of little teeth in. Nothing too big. There we go. To widen his head, because something's not right with him. Let's delete his eyes. It's going to reinsert them again, but actually as spheres, because when you do what I've just done, it changes the shapes of things. So my round eyeballs are now no longer round. Well, mine are, but his ain't. That's better. Yeah, I might bring his head back a little bit as well, make it less round, give it more of a... What do we think? Round head or more pointy head like that? So I'm going to bring his head forwards and I'm going to take the neck on the body. Oops. I'm just going to bend the neck forward as well. Now I'm going to have to bring... Yeah, you wouldn't want to wake up to see him sitting on the bottom of your bed, would you? But if you had him as a pet, you could probably grow to love him. Let's dynamesh with groups. Just do a quick save because I know what Zbrush is like. Let's just do some clean up on the neck. Right now I'm going to give him from here, just going to build up the gullet, the windpipe, the Adam's apple, etc. And I think I'll just put a few sinewy strokes in there just to give him the impression of him being a little spindly, wiry fella. All that, and it's not even in the bloody thing. It's just movies it. Right, now with the neck, what I need to do now is I just need to bring the throat forwards. With a head that big, you can't just have it on a on like a cocktail stick. Right, so Scorpion tail. Oh no, there's symmetry of that one. I'll take the snake hook tool again. Let's use normal move first just to re-profile it a touch. So just smoothing the sting out with dynamic tessellation smoothing. Right, so I'm just kind of looking at the shape of the sting. So we've got this line here. That's the kind of shape I'm trying to achieve. So I think it's actually going to be easier if I just delete that. I'm just going to append a sphere, go into solo mode so I can only see the sphere, and now with my symmetry on I can actually do this properly. So we want the top there, I want to bring the bottom down and around, and then kind of like that, I think. That looks better. If I was doing this on like a giant scorpion or something like that, which obviously I probably will do at some point, but if I was doing a giant scorpion here now, I'd probably put a few like little texture details on this to give it a bit of interest. But again, because of the size of this thing, that is absolutely more than adequate. Just turn off my symmetry, I'm just going to go and plonk it on the end of the tail after it's been shrunk down a bit. I'm going to put it about there on the tail, I think. Go back there, and I'm just going to delete that little bit of tail. So I'm going to select it, cut it to about there, and then just delete hidden. Okay, and I just need to rotate that around a touch. Okay. Right, tail is done, body's done, head's done, just the hands now. Okay, so hands. I'm going to go back to my brush menu, into my shortcuts, into my anatomy, and into my IMM hands. And I think I've got a 3-fingered goblin hand somewhere. Monster 2 links, let's try that. That's nearly there, not quite. That'll be good without the webbing. would do maybe. Ah, there we go, goblin. Okay, so I wish I could tell you who the hands were from. I went on to cubebrush.co. They've got a whole load of massive repository there of different brushes and tools and things like that, 2D and 3D. So if you're a Photoshop artist and you're looking for any 2D assets and things like that to use, then check it out and have a little look. But yeah, I'll pick up things like this from there sometimes just to help with the workflow. So the tail just needs to be isolated from the hand, so I'm just going to split the hand off. Hand's now a separate mesh. That is about the right size for the hand, I think, given the mesh. I need to inflate it because it's more designed for what do we call it now? It's more designed for the like animation type things. You delete the fingernails because they're just a nuisance. And I'm going to take snake hooks in and I'm just going to turn all of the tips of the fingers into like claws. I'll come in and just polish them up and refine them later, but for now I just want to kind of just draw them out into a point. Because I'm not going to actually do like fingernails on this guy. But I want him to look a little bit vicious. So I'm just manually thickening up the knuckles with the inflate brush, manually giving some thickness to the fingers. Because again, with this guy being as small as he's going to be, the risk is that these things, they just get lost. Thicken up there, the pads of the hands. Oh, following. I'm not getting the notifications on the screen anymore. Don't know why. Ah, Hellchild. Thank you for the follow. So, right. Yeah, just fatten up his hands, get a bit in there. Okay, now that looks obscene and chunky and awful, but I've said it loads and loads and loads of times and can't say it enough. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the screen because we're trying to get models that will print nice and paint nice. And that is the #1 objective here. If you can't print it and you can't paint it, everything I'm doing is pointless. Mirror and mold that. And now we've got an imp with 2 gangly arms. a long tail. Let's get rid of that dotted line because it annoys me. And then I just need to get that tail blended into his bum. So I'm just going to bring that over here. Okay, I'm going to inflate the tail a touch because I've got a feeling it's going to be a tricky one. I think it's going to be a bit of a thin print otherwise. Okay, nice. I'm going to save my Z tool out now as imp. Okay, so got a quick drink. Doing alright for time today. Right, so let's get this guy posed up. Easiest thing for me to do now is just merge all of the tools together. Merge, merge, merge. Okay. So merge them together, and I want to give them a kind of like a little sneaky pose. So I'm going to duplicate him. I'm going to save the original one so we can do the Avernus imps, and I'm just going to auto group everything so that everything's got its own groupings. Maybe I should group some of the hand together here, but so in my reference image he's in a kind of a lurching sculpt, so this arm is kind of, I've just isolated it, it's pretty much where it is. Let's bring it forward, no, bring it back a touch. And then I'm just going to mask off above the elbow. I'm going to bring it forward and then I'm going to mask off the whole arm, and I'm going to rotate that hand that way, I think. So once I've done, if you've seen me sculpting before, what happens is I sculpt the model, and it's all different pieces, and then once everything's merged together, I'll do one final pass to just unify everything. So where like the wrist connects to the hand, and some of the details on the hand here are a little bit coarse, a little bit crude and primitive, they'll all get blended back in the final sculpting pass. I'm going to take this leg. I'm going to move this back. So mask off one joint at a time. So that leg, I think, needs to go even further back. I remember when I first started doing this thinking, oh, it's got to be an easy way, let's just rig everything. It's not an easy way. it's all just a nuisance. Because yeah, you can rig models, but unless you're actually going to be doing let's just mirror that, flip it over. Unless you're going to be doing an awful lot of reposes of the same model, or you're animating something, it really doesn't pay to get into doing that. Oh, so we've got a little bit of a twist at the waist, in the rib, sorry, so I'll isolate the hands by masking. Get both arms. I can mask off the head pretty easily. Mask off the arms, and then I'm just going to go here. I'm going to follow the rib cage, just isolate off there. Thanks for the light, Max. Good morning, matey. I don't know if you saw last night's stream, but we talked a lot about Crystal Collapse on that one. Let's go. Oh, balls. Let's go then. Yeah, we talked a lot about Crystal Collapse on last night's stream, so saying we need to get a dual stream set up where you're on board with us, and then we can go and do the game online on stream. Why have I just lost all of my posing? What's going on with that? I've taken my eye off something and it's just screwed me. So let's just do this again. Leg back, mask it, calf back. I love Zbrush, but there's times when I hate it. It's so fickle at times, and it just seems to love doing stuff that's going to cause you more work. Kids when they refuse to tidy up after themselves. I'm going to bring it down to that line there, so we'll just check using that frame. I'm roughly on the floor with the foot. Okay, now before Zbrush crapped out on me, I was just in the process of masking off hands and head and torso and everything to put a twist in there. So the line I'm going to follow is that rib line. So I need to center my cursor. I want smack in the middle of the rib cage, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit to the side, and I'm going to bend it over a touch. So I want him to have a little sneaky look about him, like he's what was the word? Slurking. Slurking forwards. That was a phrase that my wife's nan used to use, and I don't think she knew what I don't think she even knew what it meant. It was just a word she used to use. Okay, we've got some weird. Something in the hand wasn't masked off properly, but I'll leave it. I'm going to sculpt that out in a bit. Bring it up to the shoulder, centre it, let's pop it out, and back. Make sure the shoulder stays in the right place on the body. And then I'm going to mask off the upper arm, bring it in, and oh dear, something went weird there. Okay, so I've got a weird like intersection thing going on here where I've just put the pivot point too far back basically. But I'm gonna dynamesh the whole thing and it'll all come back together. And then I can just sculpt over the joint, blend it all in, so that'll be fine. I just need it a little bit away from the body. Okay, and then I'm just gonna mask off the rest of the arm. I just want to put a bend in the hand. Okay, now I'm just going to position some fingers. So anytime you're doing these kind of like rotations where you're moving a joint, it's always good practice to just make sure you've got it lined up on the correct axis. You can always fudge it and figure it out, and you can always sculpt it back if you get it wrong, so it's not the end of the world. But positioning it first always makes life a little bit easier. Do you know what, that hand's like that, this hand's supposed to be sideways. So I'm just going to find the wrist. I'm going to locate the cursor over it. I'm going to use the green wheel to rotate the hand. There you go. Now, just to adjust the head pose. I'm going to try and locate that approximately where the neck is. And rotate it. There we go, success I think. Let's merge this little turd down. Duplicate him again, and I'm just going to merge, no not merge, sorry, I'm going to Dynamesh without groups on. Okay, so now what we've got is, let me show you, we've now got one solid uniform mesh across the whole model. With Christ, I've managed to make this tiny little imp like 3.5 million polys. So let's just go and smooth some of this out. Let's try and bring that down a little bit in a minute with some decimation. Just going to twist the belly around a little bit by pushing from one side and bringing it up like that. And because I've got a dynamic tessellation on, you're going to see this like, I don't know what you want to call it, like a pixelated type look appearing on the surface, like that. So I just need to be careful to smooth all of that out. So smooth in where the shoulders join. Shoulder blade right up there, so it's so I think it's got to a point where it's not liking the poly count. It's starting to struggle a little bit with the dynamic tessellation, so I'm just going to flip him around to his face so we can see his face. I'm just going to try and re-dynamesh again at like 320. And hopefully that'll bring like the poly count down. But no, it hasn't. So I'm going to take it down to 190. A bit more smoothing just to act on the model, because you can't dynamesh again without changing the mesh first. So dynamesh. Right, now we're at 1902. So smooth him again and dynamesh again. Right, I'm starting to see a little bit of softening around the eyes there, which is fine. I'm on 641,000 active points now. So I'll keep it there. That might go up a little bit with the active tessellation. Dynamic tessellation, whatever. So you can see this is just, this little pass now is just bringing all these bits together, and then I might just go and just add a few little details in. Okay, so I'm just going to just put some of these detail back in that I've lost through smoothing, because that's what smoothing does, it nukes your detail. So my elbows here are both funny shapes now. So I'm just going to use the move tool just to correct the line of the elbow first. Make them nice and pointy, so a square. Bring it up, bring it down. There we go. What do you think, guys? Would you want an army of these guys, or a little horde of them, maybe? Do you want a few in like cute outfits or something like that that's you can use for your familiars? I'm kind of feeling I'd like to do a selection of these. Wrist back in. And one of the other reasons for doing that is the extra width on the wrist joint there. It just gives that little bit of extra strength to it. It might not be entirely necessary for the scale, but also I'm aware of how thin his wrist could potentially be. Right, and that's Griblett done, I think. Not one other thing. There you go, Griblett the Infernal Imp. Familiar to Alenor, the Elven Mage. Knuckles in. And he's done. Right, now, morning Kev, how's it going? Right, so we've got this little imp done. Let me rename him Griblett. Okay, so one final Dynamesh. Now I need to pre-process him. So this is the process of creating the final model. So now that he's pre-processed, that's completed. I'll do decimations. Decimate current at 20%. So he's now 127,000 points and does not appear to have visibly changed at all. So I'm going to take that down a little touch further, take it down to 15%. And he's below 100,000 points now, but still looking good. So I'll leave him there. I won't take him any further, it's unnecessary. Do you know what I should have done? I just need to undo some of these steps a minute. Let's get back to a decent sized mesh. And I just need to run a slice curve across. Just take the bottom of his feet off. Redo my Dynamesh. And then just, oops. There you go. Now he's got flat feet, so he'll actually sit on a base. Or stand on a base rather. Delete the hidden, and now I'll redo my pre-process. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to take him back down to 15%. So 98,000 polys. I'm going to copy the model and I'm going to paste it into the scene with Alenor. Yeah. because I know how big I need them to be. So we're going to paste him in. Oh, actually, he's come out pretty. That's pretty spot on, actually, to be fair. But it is, he's way flat. I might have to just make him a touch bigger. So he's a little bit bigger than in the picture, but I'm confident now that's kind of snotling sized. Perfect fit, eh? Check that. So this is the two guys together. So now I just need to export Griblett. So I'm going to go back to my ruler. The ruler is the thing that maintains the scale in the scene, so the ruler is always 100mm. Everything in the scene then, I don't have to worry about how tall the model is particularly, but everything in this scene is relative to that 100mm ruler. So she's 32mm to the eye, and he will be, what's that, about 15mm tall. So I'm good with that. So I'm going to export STL with the ruler selected. Cheers, Kev. So we're going to go and drop her in the Alenor file. Oh, where did I put it? Adventurous Guild Player Character, there we go. So we're going to pop it in here. So you can see everybody's done the supports on screen before for Alenor, so we're going to do the same for Griblett now. We use the subtools. So let's save this and close it. Okay, so close Zbrush. It's already saved, I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to open my netfab. I'm going to just open up my file browser, go to the folder where those little guys live. Okay, so Alenor is already done, Griblett's coming in. So last time I manually did this, I did the repair manually before. When you load files into netfab, there's a little box there that says automatic part repair. It just saves you a bit of a process, but that little tick box does the whole process that I did on the last stream with Alenor. So you don't need to do it. It already says repaired up here in the name, so you don't need to touch that. So all I need to do now is right click on the name, export part as STL, and that's fixed. Oh, and it's perfect as well. There we go. There's no issues with it, so it's good to go. So I can close netfab, that's that process done. It still boggles me that people don't just do this as a standard. Like when you're providing models to the public to use, it's got to be good practice to put them out there in a format that is ready to go. Okay, so I've got Griblett. I'm going to delete the unrepaired version because I don't need them. I don't need my ruler, so that can go. Now I'm just going to drag Griblett repaired into. Oh, look how little he is. Yeah, I think it is laziness. I think some of it is that they don't understand. If you don't print models yourself, you're not going to know that it's a requirement. And the other part of it is it's a process that they just don't want to do, or they don't know how to do. So we'll take him off the build plate about 5mm. I'm going to go to angle. I think is fine there. That's okay. So I'm going to go to my prepare. Right, so we're going to do some supports. Indeed, Kev. Indeed, mate. Right, so I'm going to go for supports now. We're going to go heavy supports. I'm going to put a couple on the lowest point. I don't want to go too intense with this guy because obviously he's only little. We'll one there, one there. We'll give him one on each elbow. And maybe one there. I'm going to switch over to some mediums. I'm going to do island detection in real accuracy, which basically means it's going to find every thing. Now, something came up this week, so I'm just going to mention it now because this is kind of important for supports. So whenever I do pre-supported miniatures, I print everything at 25 micron layer height. The reason I do 25 micron layer height, having been printing in resin since 2016, anything above 25 I believe is inferior on quality. So I think you can visibly see the difference between a 25 micron print and a 30 micron print and a 40 micron print and certainly a 50 micron. So this is like layer height. So if I print everything at 25 micron, I know I'm getting lovely clean prints and you're not going to see any layer lines. If I go to like 10 microns, the difference in print time from 25 to 10 is huge. So like an average print at 25 microns takes me about 4 hours or so on a mono printer. On a non-mono printer you're talking about 12 hours. But on a mono printer, 4 to 5 hours average. If I scale that up to 10 microns, so I'm more than doubling the layer height, the time is going to more than double. So what I can get to a saleable standard, like a displayable standard, in 4 hours, actually then takes 9 or 10. And unfortunately, when you also go to that level, the visible returns are negligible. So you won't see a visible improvement for doing 20 microns or 10 microns. So it just doesn't pay to do it, essentially. You just need to kind of find that sweet spot, and 25 microns is it. So everything I support is done at 25 micron layer height. If you do 50 micron print, if you choose to print it at 50 microns, it will still work for you. But there are more supports than you really need. So in a 50 micron print and a 25 micron print, if you set your island detection with your printer settings set to 25 microns and 50 microns, you'll find different islands. Because the slicer is doing passes, it's scanning the model for the different layer heights. So you'll need less supports for a 50 micron print than you will for a 25 micron print. So at 25 microns, my models will print absolutely perfectly. Anything above that, they'll print fine. If you start going lower and you start taking it down to like 10 microns, the supports that I provide probably won't quite cut the mustard. You may end up with a few extra islands in there that are going to get missed, and that could potentially cause you failures. So you just need to make sure that you're being sensible about it. Don't just blindly go for what you think are the best settings. Physically look at the models. You know, I've done the tests, I've done these checks and inspected the quality of the prints, and you get the diminishing returns for huge increases in your print time, and to me it's just not worth it. So, but yeah, do what's right for you, but do be sensible with your printing, because there's no need to make things hard for yourself. Okay, so one of the important things I'm going to try and do when I do this, I don't want to connect things here on this side of the model to supports on this side of the model, and I don't want anything crossing between the legs or crossing between the tail, because anything that crosses is something that's going to potentially cause problems. Now here I've got to decide whether the hands are going to go be supported forwards, and I think generally when I'm removing this, I'm going to be lifting it up and back. So if I'm pulling up and back, if I've got supports behind the model, they're going to get in the way. So I think I'm going to take the support for this one from the middle finger there, and I'm going to bring it forwards. And that one I want to connect to there and there and there. No, that last one didn't work. You know what, it just wants to connect it to the tail, so I'll just let it do it. I'll go straight with it. This one I'll bring down here. Except I want that to be medium, not large. And under there we'll connect to this one, which is where the foot's connected. And again for that. And then here. Right, so that support's gone red because it's intersecting the finger, I think. Oh no, it's not. Why has it gone red? I don't know. But bring it up there, it's clear anyway, so that's okay now. And these little islands in here, I'm going to pop them in with light supports, and they're going to be micro supports. That'll just make them a little bit easier to remove. Make sure it's on the tip. Under the hand, got no dramas going on, but I think I'm going to put one extra support in here, a medium one, just on the hand there, just to make sure that picks up okay. And I'll need to do one on the ear, so we'll go ear to there. And I'll just pop that micro support there under the bottom of the ear onto the shoulder. So that will clean off really nice and easy. That's not going to cause any major issues. I need to pop one there. So there. Right, now the only other thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to, and this was a tip from Ty at Tabletop Foundry. I'm just going to put a little line of medium supports across the bottom bit there, around the foot. So that's where the foot is going to connect to the build plate, and that will make sure that there's a good solid anchor there. Now I have already used the heavy supports, so there's one heavy support on there, but this just gives that heavy support a little bit of reinforcement and make sure that the model doesn't detach. Now I've done it on both feet, but there's also the tail here is also the low point, so I'm also just going to put a few here as well. Okay, and maybe one there. That might come to that. So he should be good to go now. I'm just going to put a couple into his back, just to make certain that there's no wobble there. I think I might brace that to there just to hold it all up. And then one on the back of his head, just to catch that overhang. So any areas that are highlighted yellow, they are overhang areas that could potentially end up flat if you don't support them properly. So Kev has asked at Hobby Corner, so a supported STL may not be supported for how you print. If it's advertised as fully supported, it means it's configured for all varieties of printer options. So all pre-supports, Kev, are not created equal. You'll see plenty of companies that knock out pre-supported models that are just done with auto supports, or they're just thrashed out as fast as possible just to get the job done, or they're overdone to be cautious and make sure that they get a print. I've seen some awful ones that just leave marks all over the models. At Chilcon, Ross at Fohammer bought me a couple of models through that he'd had from another manufacturer, and he'd printed them, and the sheer number of supports just blew my mind. That there were just marks all over the model, and it's not necessary. So the problem with 3D printing is it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. So people print at different layer heights, they print with different resins, they use different printers. You're printing in different countries with different temperatures and humidities and things, and all of these kind of things are going to play a part in how successful you are. So all I can do, I can give you a model and I can show you that I've supported the model. I can test print it to prove that the supports work, and then I can tell you the settings that I'm using to print so that you can emulate it as best as you can. Now, my printing experience will be different to other people, and I think I said this on a previous stream, but the Ty at Table Flip Foundry, he also uses the same printer as me, so he's also got a Sonic Mini 4K. He also uses the Aqua 4K resin from Frozen. So the printer is identical. He lives in Omaha, I think it is, in the US, and I live in Solihull in the UK. So you know exactly what UK temperatures are like at the moment, mate, and how variable we get it. But the same model on the same printer using the same resin, for me, is a 2.6 second exposure at 25 microns. For Ty at 25 microns, he does it in 2 seconds. So my cure time, my exposure time is 0.6 seconds longer with the same equipment, same configuration, same printer, everything. And the only variable here is geography. So, yeah, you can't even just go and take a profile from online and say this works. What I normally do is I would say if you use the Table Flip Foundry Cones of Calibration tool, which you can pick up from tableflipfoundry.com. If you download the calibration tool there, if you can calibrate your printer perfectly with that tool, which is super easy to do, the calibration will guarantee pretty much that my models will print. So for the sake of doing that 1 hour calibration print and just dialing in your own settings, getting it on the head, on the nose, that will, you know, it will give you a guaranteed print. So it'll take about an hour to run at 25 microns, but it's worthwhile doing, just because it does save you loads of failures further down the line. Okay, so Griblett there is done. Oh no, I'm just going to put a raft on. I know not everyone likes rafts, but again, a little tip I had from Andrea at Amira Labs: when you set your print exposure and you're doing all your base layer times, your base layers should really go up to make sure that you capture the bottom of the supports. So if I take the thickness of the base down here to 0.3, so it's 0.3 millimeters. If I do a 25 micron layer thickness, my base at 0.3 millimeters is going to take, what's that, 4 layers per 0.1 millimeter. So, alright, it's going to take 12 bottom layers to make sure that entire raft is in that burning layer. So if I do 15 layers on my base exposure on the burnout layer, then the bottom of all of these supports is guaranteed to be in there, which means that your supports are always going to form. So if you ever get any issues where your supports aren't forming properly, or they're not, you end up with like dead spots and flat spots, give that a go. Just make sure you use enough enough base layers to make sure that the bottom of your supports are captured. I'm going to take the raft thickness down to 0.2, not 0.3. 0.1 is a little bit thin. It doesn't matter if it explodes when you're trying to remove it off the build plate because it's a raft, it's not even going to be used. But what is important is the having the raft on there. It just helps you to get the whole model off the build plate without causing any damage, and then you can remove the raft. You can remove the supports like cleanly afterwards. So, any more need? I'm going to put one more support on his underside of his thigh there, and I'm going to connect it to that support there, just in case there's an issue there. I think I'm going to put a knee support onto there. Now remember, I've done island detection here, so this is like, according to the island detector, there are no further issues with this print. But I'm always wary. Okay, well I'll get that one on a test print, and we'll see how it goes. So he can go on with Alenor and the rest of the guys from this month's release. So Griblett LYS supports. Okay, and then for anybody who uses Chitubox and doesn't use Lychee for their slicing, so you can obviously download Lychee for free anyway. If you ever get just an LYS file and you don't need, you think, oh, I can't use it, I've got to do the supports myself. Even if you don't want to use Lychee for your slicing, if you just open it up and see the supports like this, and then you can go up to File, Export Selected 3D Models, and just do that, and that will just create the STL file for you. Kev, get off, mate. Do your work. I'm just wrapping up now anyway, so Griblett's done. Yeah, you too, man. I'll be streaming again tomorrow evening, probably, if you want to come and join. So yeah, this is Griblett done. Alenor's done. I'm going to chuck them on the printer now and get a test run, and we'll see how it all goes. And yeah, next time round, I'm going to do. Yeah, you too, Kev, man. You take it easy. Have fun. So next time we do it, I'm going to do the Sculpt of Corrado. I know I was talking about doing the rest of the Adventurers Guild characters, but for the Crystal Collapse game, we've just had the artwork refreshed. So we've now got new artwork for the characters, or it's being done rather. And I need to make a start on them. So I'm going to revisit and review and revise the Corrado sculpt for Crystal Collapse, because it's the first piece of artwork we've had done. So I'm going to restyle that, add a little bit more detailing on with the new illustration, and do a bit of a repose. So yeah, next Wednesday, if you tune into that, we'll have a little bit of that going on, and we'll talk a little bit more about Crystal Collapse as well and what's going on with that. And don't forget, if you want to stream, if you want to join in and do a little bit of playtesting with us on Crystal Collapse, ping me a message, and we can get the whole group set up, invite you in, and get some Tabletop Simulator going. I'll just have a quick mooch on Twitch and see who's running at the moment, that we can go and raid. Right, Mike Moans is on again. We're going to drop in on Mike, and we'll see what's going on. So I'm going to drop you all over there now. I hope I've remembered how to do this. Let's see if it works. Yep, in we go. Right guys, I'm going to go and get some lunch in a minute, so I'll drop you on my mic, and you're in his capable hands. Thanks for joining today, and we'll see you all soon. Take care, people.